I'm Brian Van, sportbiketrackgear.com, and today we're going to install the M4 slip-on on our 2015 Yamaha YZF R3 STG project bike. This is going to be a little different than the other slip-ons we put on this bike because when we do this, we're going to be eliminating the muffler box on the motorcycle. So we're actually going to cut the stock header pipe down. This is the part that will be installed. It's got provisions for the O2 sensor, right? If you want to use an auto tune or a Bazaz unit, you're also able to use an aftermarket sized O2 because they've supplied an adapter that's going to accept the stock or accept the aftermarket. What is also pretty cool with this is it's going to mount right about here. Okay, so it's Street Slayer style. You're going to be getting rid of that big old muffler that's hanging out the side of the bike. So we're going to transform the look, the sound, and improve the power all with one project. Now remember, when you do this, you're cutting the catalyst off the bike, the muffler box, right? So it can affect, whether your bike is emission legal or not emission legal. It depends on your state, if you're using this thing on a racetrack or if you're using it on the street. So just bear that in mind. It depends on where you live. What is it going to take to do this? To cut the pipe, I'm going to use a hacksaw. I've got a cutting wheel. I could use that, right? But I'm just going to go straight up old school hacksaw. I've got a pretty decent blade in it. You could cut it with a Sawzall. You could cut it with a chop saw. You just want to make sure that whatever you use, you're going to be able to get a good, even cut. Beyond that, some basic hand tools. We need to remove the entire exhaust system, header and all, muffler box and all, so we can get it over the bench and cut it. Then we'll reinstall the header after it's trimmed and begin installing the slip-on. So we're going to start by reviewing our instructions. You can see M4 does a great job here. We've got a full parts list. We've got notes, detailed instructions with very detailed photos. In my mind, this is a project most anyone can do, right? As long as you have the same basic hand tools that I do. So, to get started, we're going to begin back here at the muffler. We're going to remove that first. Got the stock muffler clamp. Loosen that up. Little trim panel over here. Got 3 fasteners on this panel. 5mm Allens. This panel will not be reused, as this actually mounts to that stock muffler box. Put that off to the side. Now we're ready to take the mount off the actual muffler box itself. 12mm hex head. You need a backup wrench. I've been waiting for this pipe to come out for quite a while, and pretty excited to do this. M4 does a great job with their exhaust. Bring a lot of value and performance to the market, and that's something I really enjoy. We'll also get a weight on this for you. We're going to weigh the difference between the muffler box, this, and then of course the M4 slip-on that'll take its place. Okay, muffler box is out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to loosen. I'm going to try and take this apart, right, and remove the header without taking the fairing off. I took a look at it. It looks like I'll be able to do it. So we're going to go down that road here real quick and just see if that's going to be possible. Oxygen sensor. Be able to pull the fairing away. O2 wire. Get that out of here. Create a little space. To get yourself even more room, you could go ahead and remove this fastener here. see there is a lot of free play in that, so you're able to work with this pretty comfortably without any issue. Now, what I like to do with the O2 sensors, and not everyone agrees with this practice, but what I like to do is I just like to twist the wires. You know, you can see that I'm twisting them, so it's not really putting any stress on the sensor as I rotate it. And then when I reinstall, I will actually wind up the wires a little bit before I put them back in there. You can go through all the paces if you want and remove it. Honestly, I've done this hundreds of times back in the dealership days. Never had an issue. I'm to the point now where I want to come up front and I want to go after the actual header bolts themselves. If you look in there, you can see that it's wide open. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to get this taken apart here without removing any of the stock bodywork, which will definitely cut down on the time spent here on the project considerably. The easiest way to get these header bolts off is you take two off from the clutch side of the motorcycle, okay, and then you take the other two off from the brake side. The studs that are located to the clutch side are the ones that you will remove from the clutch side of the bike. The ones that are located to the brake side, you will remove from your brake side. Using a 12mm hex 3/8 drive on a swivel with a 3/8 nut driver. You may need to break these loose with a ratchet, or if you don't have a big nut driver like this, then just go ahead and just use a ratchet. Okay, we're loose up front. Now we're ready to come back here and remove the mounts from the muffler box itself. There's two mounting bolts that are in there from the factory, one on each side of the motorcycle, 12mm in size once again. I go over to the other side of the bike and remove this one. As I'm removing this one, I will support the muffler box with one hand so it doesn't just fall down. Okay, rotated the muffler box and the header pipe over towards the brake side of the bike, up like so, and out it comes. So we're able to get this off without taking the fairings off the bike, which definitely saves a little bit of time. Now we're going to head over to the bench and get this thing ready to cut. Okay, now we're ready to begin cutting the pipe, right? Per the instructions right here, 1 inch from the stock O2 sensor boss. Got my measure, steel ruler, 1 inch. I'm going to actually just scribe it with a screwdriver right there. And that's where I'm going to begin my cut. We're going to show you some of this, but not all of it. Watching Brian hacksaw on this, it's going to be like watching paint dry on your wall. We've all got better things to do, but I will show you the start of it. The most important thing you're going to do here is to make sure, right, that you are cutting straight through this. So after I get this started, I'm going to really make sure I have a good vantage point, and then I have this with a nice square cut on. And you can see here, just with a common hacksaw, right, we're making pretty good progress with the first couple strokes. And the reason I chose this is because I feel this is a tool that most people who own this bike are going to have access to. If you bought an R3, odds are you didn't buy the R3 because you wanted to spend millions of dollars on high-end replacement parts or performance parts, right? So to me, the slip-on really lines up, and even using the hacksaw. So there you go. I'm going to be hacksawing away, and I'll give you a rough idea when I'm all done how long it took me to do this. Okay, literally less than 5 minutes to cut through this with a hacksaw, right? Standard hand tool. You know, you can see it's straight enough. Not perfectly straight. You'd get much straighter if you had a chop saw, right? Which would be probably the ideal way to do it. But like I said, I wanted to do this project like I'm a newer rider at home, very common hand tools. Okay, so now we need to get this put back on the bike. Okay, before I put the pipe on, I want to double check and make sure my gaskets are in place. You can see they're both still there. Typically, the gaskets will be held in place, they won't fall out. If they do fall out, you obviously need to put them back in there. What I would use is maybe like a little bit of bearing grease on either side of the gasket, push it up in the head, and that kind of holds it in place, and it burns off real quickly when you start it. So that's a little trick you can use. These are captive in there, they look like they're in great shape. I don't feel the need to replace them. I honestly never do, and I've never had an issue. If you see the gaskets burnt out when you're doing this, you would replace it, but on a brand new bike like this, that's just not going to be the case. So we're going to go ahead and manipulate this until we get it up into place, and then I'm going to give you an idea of what it takes to do this successfully. The key with this is to make sure that you do not have one of the flange nuts tighten down more than the other. You want to have a good even pull from one side to the other. Okay, and I'll explain that further as we get going here. Work everything up into place, like so. Go ahead and get the nuts, get them started. Like anything else, we'll start off, you know, kind of finger tight here. This is a pretty new bike, so everything goes together real nice, comes apart real nice. That's a big advantage. Go ahead and get this other flange up here. When you've snugged these up, okay, you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you have one nut that's closer to the cylinder head than the other. That means you've got an uneven pull on that flange. Okay, so when you're finished, you should have roughly the same amount of threads exposed on the other side of the nut on each stud. And hopefully through the video you're able to see this clearly enough. Start off with just a nice finger tight. Okay, now that is in position, and we'll be ready to torque these down. Take a good look at them. A little bit of torque. A little bit, and I need to go to the other side of the motorcycle so I can reach the other fasteners. And we'll pass over them one more time using 3/8 drive ratchet. I want to put a little more torque on there than we have with a standard nut driver. To install the slip-on itself. They have supplied some anti-seize, high temp. We're going to use that on the fitting that goes inside for the oxygen sensor, as well as a little bit on the inside of the pipe in case we ever have to take it apart. Okay, take a little bit of the anti-seize here. Rather than use my finger, I'll put it on a rag. Just keeps it a little cleaner. And we're just going to put just a little bit here on the threads for this fitting. Now, we will squeeze a little more out of the tube here. We're going to put a nice thin film on the inside of the pipe here. This will help you get it together, and it'll also help you if down the road, for any reason you ever need to take this apart. Okay, this will help remove it without too much of a fight. Okay, now we took all this over and weighed it, and we're looking at an 11-pound weight savings by removing that stock muffler box and stock canister and replacing it with the M4 slip-on. Okay, now we have a bracket that also is going to need to go in place here. They've supplied 2 fasteners along with the bracket itself. And the longer of the 2 is going to need to go, I believe, through the part. So this is going to fit right through here. So longer. The 45 mil is going to go up here at the top. The shorter the 2 will be down at the bottom. They have supplied all of the necessary hardware. You could Loctite this if you chose to. But considering the fact that we've installed several exhausts on this bike, we'll pass on that part. Okay, now let's go ahead and get this lined up. And begin sliding it into place. Rotating it a little bit as I push it forward. I did deburr the pipe after I got done making the cut. And we definitely want to make sure that we get that on there far enough. There we go. Had to loosen up that stock, that supplied barrel clamp just a little bit. That got kind of snug as I was pushing it up into position, so that definitely helped quite a bit. Take a look at the position now. Okay, should be able to in here like so. Okay, that all fit quite nicely. I want to look at the angle that they have here. On that bracket, and kind of look at how the oxygen sensor is oriented, and I think that's going to be the real guide here, how far we're going to slip that on. Everything looks good. I don't see any clearance issues at all, and we do have a rear set relocation kit on the bike too. We've got them pushed back a little bit with the kit we got from Driven, but Everything looks good to go there. I would say that we're slid the pipe on far enough. Now I'm going to leave the barrel clamp loose right now. Okay. My next step is I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my O2. Okay, I'm going to wind the wires up a little bit in the opposite direction so that essentially it's unwinding itself as I tighten it. You know, you'll see some comments and people don't love that little wire twisting procedure that I do, but you know, that's not something I started doing yesterday. All the years as a production mechanic, you know, you learn tricks like that that are effective and don't create issues, and that was one of them. I showed you. I'm going to go ahead and snug that up. Now, we're ready to go ahead and re-secure the oxygen sensor wiring. And this is kind of the what I'm going to use to gauge if I've slid that on far enough. I know it's certainly on far enough to seal well, no problem there. But looking at the photo here, it looks like they have the O2, you know, is really kind of in between here, favoring the backside a little bit as you look at the frame. So yeah, I'd say I've got it in the same spot. So I feel good about that. Now we're ready to go ahead and snug up our mounting brackets. And we'll get that done. You're gonna need a backup wrench, 12 millimeter. Bike's gonna look totally different with this system on there. Make sure you get that nice and tight. And then to tighten the other side here, I'm gonna come around the motorcycle so I can reach through. Otherwise, I would have to remove the rear set, and there's really no need to do that. I just need to come through the other side. Go ahead and snug this up. You also want to make sure the barrel clamp is all the way at the end of the pipe. That's going to be the position where it'll seal the rest. Get that snugged up. We have two little fasteners we need to put back in place, and then we're ready to start the bike and hear what it sounds like. This system shipped with a DB killer in place already, okay? Just so you're aware. My intention is to probably take it out because the system that I had on previously, I had already removed the DB killer from that as well. So we'll start it first with the DB killer that is installed in the pipe, and we'll listen to it for a minute. And then we'll shut it off. I will remove it, and we'll take a listen unrestricted. Okay, we started it already. I ran it for a minute so we could let the engine warm. And now, give you a listen. That is with the insert in. They do have a quieter one available if you desire. And to remove it, we have a little Allen right here. A little warm right now, but that's okay. Finish that job off with a pair of needle nose here. The DB killer has been removed. We are unrestricted. definitely a little bit louder. Okay, I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna ride it around all the time that way. We may begin that way, but let's recap what we've done here. This is a really easy project. It looks phenomenal on the motorcycle. I think it gives an even sportier look than it had before the project began. It's easy, it's affordable, and I think the affordable part really stays in line with the whole concept behind the R3. It's a great bike. It's not really expensive. It has just enough power to have fun on, but not so much that you're gonna have your license taken away every single time you twist this throttle. So feel free to leave your comments. You know, what do you think? Better with the DB killer in, better with it out? I'm gonna ride it around either way. I'll answer your questions and I'll let you all know what I think too. This is our M4 slip-on install on our 2015 Yamaha YZF R3 STG project bike.